Well, in the first half, I'm sure if he was working on those grades at the beginning, he might have been more down the bottom of that report card. But as that game went on, Scott, again, it's hard to find a lot of negativity in a team that's won 8 in a row, is now 9-1. But it was a scene last night, and what we saw was a team really turn it on in the second half. And you wrote about that today on the offensive side of the ball. What changed on offense from them? You talked to a bunch of guys in that locker room after the game from the offensive side. What changed on offense for them?
Basically, they said it was all about execution. I was trying to get into figuring out what they adjusted, and they all just, looked at me and said, we just weren't executing in the first half, and we just, really needed to execute better. And so the offensive linemen said they were getting better blocks, and the running backs were hitting the holes better. And it just seemed like it was an entirely, offensive effort that needed to change in terms of the execution. I don't think they were, going to blame it on the bye week necessarily, but I think it was in the back of their minds. It's kind of the hunch I got from speaking with them that, they were a little rusty coming out of the bye, and then finally everything clicked, and it was all the way around. I mean, Wentz didn't have much of a pocket to throw in the first half. His throws were offline. He was off. His timing with his receivers was off. Nothing was working with the running game. But then, in the second half, it's like somebody snapped their fingers. And, at times I found myself kind of stunned watching that second half. Anything and everything was going their way, and it was impressive to watch.
Hey, what are you seeing from the run game now, 11 weeks in, that maybe was lacking earlier midway through that season?
Well, I see the offensive line gelling once again now that they've gone through several weeks without Jason Peters. There was an adjustment period that had to go there with getting used to having Big B on the line. And, look, we haven't called his name much the last few weeks, and that's a huge credit to him and how he slid in there. And you got to give Doug Peterson credit, too. He really was firm in saying, look, Lane Johnson's playing an extremely solid right tackle right now, that we don't want to move him and shuffle 2 positions to make up for Peters. So they left Lane Johnson alone, and Big B's doing his job more. And Doug said today, I'm not having to put as much help over there to help him block, and he's doing that. I think that's all part of it. They're really, opening up those holes. The backs, look, LeGarrette Blount is a big physical back. Jay Ajayi is a physical kind of back, too. Those guys can take a hit, push through it, and still keep going. And I think that was the key on some of the right in the second half, that it was that the holes were kind of there, but then if there's a little bit of a seam, those backs are busting through it and getting to the next level. And then it's, it becomes tough to bring them down. Those guys are really big guys to try to bring down.
Hey, Scott, what did Ronald Darby add last night to the defense? I tweeted his name out a bunch, especially seeing him go up against Dez a lot.
I was impressed with Darby. Look, here's a guy coming off of 8 weeks or 9 weeks where he hasn't played in game situations, and he looked like he didn't miss a beat. His coverage was really good early in the game. The one in the back of the end zone that he was able to get position on and bat the ball away and hold the Cowboys to a field goal, that was impressive. The interception was nice. He was in on the play where the ball was tipped up to the interception, I believe, to McLeod. He was everywhere. And what he adds, to pretty much get to the heart of your question, Pete, he adds depth. Look, now you're moving guys. You've got Patrick Robinson out there still. You got Jalen Mills. You've got Ronald Darby. Now you've got, Jalen Watkins, and you've got Rasul Douglas, the rookie, in there as well now, who's got a lot of experience mixing in. It's hard to believe we're saying this, but they're kind of getting deep at corner, and it's not what anybody was thinking going into the season. So when you have Darby out there doing what he did, look, other teams are going to notice that they have coming up on the schedule that, look, he's back, and he's just as good as he was at the beginning of the season. So I think it's going to be fun to watch this defense continue to gel, the offense continue to try to put 4 quarters together. Should be fun.
You mentioned Mills. He seemed to be all over the field last night. How did he grade out?
Yeah, I gave Jalen Mills it was hard to find some guys to give some Bs. I gave Jalen Mills a B. He broke up some passes, some key plays on third downs as well. And he was second on the team in tackles. I probably could have given him an A. He gave a bigger cushion to Dez Bryant in the second half, but why not? They had such a big lead that you just didn't want to get beat behind him. I thought, really what they did as a team on Dez was key. They really frustrated him, and you could see it in some of his play early in the game. And they never let him get by them. And they just, when he was there, they got him, and brought him to the turf. They didn't really allow many yards after the catch until late when they gave the softened cushion. But look, like I said, I've been impressed with Jalen Mills. There's no doubt he stepped up when they needed him to earlier in the season, and I think we're going to see the benefits of all of that extra play as they go through here in the second half of the season and into the playoffs.
On Sunday Night Football on national TV, was this a hello, I'm here to the rest of the league from Derek Barnett and what he did last night?
I talked to Barnett after the game. Real impressed with that young man. To me, it looks like the game is slowing down around him. His speed off the line seems to be a little faster than it was a few weeks ago. He's seeing more plays. It's going to be hard not to give him more snaps after what he did last night. Real athletic play on the strip sack that he got to force the fumble that Bradham picked up and ran into the end zone. You're starting to see what the Eagles liked about him when they made him a first-round pick. Sometimes you have to be a little patient with these guys, and he's really coming on. He's got a lot of confidence. Talking to him at his locker after the game, you really see and hear the confidence in his voice, and he's really crediting a lot of the guys in the team room with him there at his position for really helping him mentally understand a little better about what he needs to be looking for and how he needs to react. And I think you're only going to see him continue to get better as the season goes on. Look for bigger things out of Barnett for sure.
Scott Grayson's got Grayson's grades posted at 97.3 ESPN.com after every Eagles game, and he was in Dallas last night. Give us kind of the mood in that locker room afterwards. I know it's a late night. They want to get out of there, but, it's had to be a little bit of a festive atmosphere.
He definitely was. In fact, it wasn't like anybody was running to get out of there and get on the bus. Those guys were really, truly soaking it in. What they did in that building to that team. Mike, I tweeted this out. I mean, it was still more than 10 minutes left in the game, and the Cowboys fans were heading for the doors. I mean, just looking around that stadium, there wasn't much left other than the Eagles fans in there at the end of that game. The players enjoyed it. They respected that. They knew the fans were there, and they enjoyed themselves in that locker room before they got out of there. They were not looking to leave in a hurry, and a lot of joking going on between the players. You see tons of smiles, as you would expect from a team that's won 9 out of 10 games. These guys are hot. They know it. They're playing well. They're having a lot of fun. You can see that. The chemistry we've talked about continues to grow and go north, and it's impressive to watch this team continue to bond more and more, and really I keep using the word impressive, but I can't think of another word to use. It's just this team really is heading in the right direction in every way possible.
Scott, when you go through a game and the kicker gets hurt and you have a linebacker booting balls, causing touchbacks, it's hard to find things that are going wrong for you.
Well, it reminded me of last year when they started having to try out for long snapper when Dorenbos went down. And, I'm watching Grugier Hill start kicking. And, that's just impressive. You got a linebacker out there kicking the ball on kickoffs down to the goal line. It was funny to watch. Now, here's the thing. I think Doug kind of enjoyed it, Peterson. I think he kind of thought, hey, I love knowing that I can go for 2 and nobody's going to give me any grief for it. I get to go for 2 as many times as I want because I don't have to put a kicker out there since I don't have one. And, he was asked about it today in his news conference, and I think he kind of wants to keep going for 2. But, it's not going to be the nature in this league. It was interesting to watch how the team battled through that. And to me, it's just another case of injuries come up, they mount for this team, and while people wanted to make excuses for the Cowboys with injuries, this team's been through big injuries. Imagine if they had some of these guys as they're going through this stretch.
Right.
And now, they got to figure it out with the kicker.
By the way, how does Camus not get an A? I'm disappointed.
Yeah, you know what? I needed to give him one. You're
right.
He
had 2 touchbacks last night. 2 touchbacks.
I know. If I'm the Cowboys, I think you run those out no matter where they ended up. But they took those touchbacks.
Scott Grayson's got all the grades posted at 97.3 ESPN.com. He's also got another story up regarding the Eagles' offensive explosion in the second half. He talked to a bunch of the guys in the locker room after the game on why they thought they were able to be so successful. So check out both those stories now at 97.3 ESPN.com. Thanks, Scott.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.